The 1980s gave us some of television's most iconic shows, but lurking in the shadows were dozens of series that disappeared faster than your dad going out for cigarettes. We're talking full-blown vanishing acts. Shows that were here one week, gone the next. Today we're counting down 24 shows that crashed and burned so spectacularly, network executives probably still wake up in cold sweats. Let's kick things off with Bring 'Em Back Alive, which followed the adventures of 1930s animal trapper Frank Buck in exotic locations. CBS thought they'd found their Indiana Jones for television. They found Cancellation instead. After 17 episodes of watching a guy capture animals in the jungle, audiences decided they'd rather watch literally anything else. Even in the 1980s, people weren't interested in glorified animal trafficking as entertainment. CBS learned that lesson the hard way. Flo, the Alice spin-off that proved not every sassy waitress deserves her own show. Flo Castleberry packed up her apron and headed to Houston to run her own diner, because apparently CBS thought America was desperate for more Polly Holiday. Spoiler alert, we weren't. The show limped through 2 seasons before CBS pulled the plug, proving that sometimes a beloved side character should stay exactly where they are, on the side. Speaking of questionable spin-offs, let's talk about Enos, the Dukes of Hazzard spin-off that absolutely nobody asked for. The premise? Deputy Enos Strait moves to Los Angeles to become a cop. Riveting stuff. CBS took a lovable country bumpkin, stripped away everything that made him charming, dropped him in LA, and wondered why viewers weren't interested in watching him write parking tickets. 1 season and done. Even Boss Hogg could have told him this was a bad investment. Good Time Girls tried to capitalize on the success of Laverne and Shirley by following 3 young women working in a defense plant during World War II. ABC thought they'd struck gold with this nostalgic comedy. They struck out instead. The show was so forgettable that it barely made it through its first season, getting cancelled after just 13 episodes. Turns out, not every show about working-class women in the past is automatically a hit. Who knew? Now we're getting into the real failures. The Phoenix was ABC's attempt at sci-fi mysticism, a show about an ancient astronaut with a magical amulet wandering around 1980s America. Sounds amazing, right? Wrong. The network gave it exactly 5 episodes before deciding that maybe audiences weren't ready for an immortal alien dealing with Reagan-era problems. 5 episodes. Some shows get more time to find their footing. This one barely got time to unpack. Here's where things get truly offensive. Police Squad was a brilliant Leslie Nielsen comedy from the creators of Airplane, packed with visual gags, wordplay, and genius-level humor. ABC's response? Too smart for our audience. I'm not making that up. Network executives literally said viewers had to pay too much attention. 6 episodes. That's all we got. Meanwhile, the Naked Gun movies proved everyone at ABC wrong and made millions. But sure, punish people for having taste. That's a great business model. If you're enjoying this trip down memory lane of spectacular television failures, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We've got more glorious disasters coming your way, and trust me, it gets worse. Voyagers was actually kind of charming. A time-traveling adventure show where a guy and a kid bounce through history, fixing things with a malfunctioning Omni device. It had heart, decent effects for 1982, and genuine educational value. NBC gave it a full season, 20 episodes, then said thanks but no thanks. The show ended mid-adventure, leaving our heroes stuck in time forever. Somewhere in the 1800s, they're still waiting for renewal news that's never coming. Square Pegs was ahead of its time, a genuine, honest look at high school awkwardness, starring Sarah Jessica Parker before she was remotely famous. The show had wit, authenticity, and a killer new wave soundtrack. CBS looked at all that potential and said, nah. 1 season, 20 episodes, then straight into the cult classic graveyard where it belongs. At least it got a proper ending, which is more than most shows on this list can say. The network basically told every misfit teen in America that their stories didn't matter. Cool move, CBS. ABC looked at two supporting characters from Happy Days and thought, let's give them their own show in Chicago. The result was Joni Loves Chachi, a spin-off so unnecessary that even die-hard Happy Days fans couldn't muster enthusiasm. The show limped through 17 episodes across 2 seasons before ABC mercifully sent Joni and Chachi back to Milwaukee where they belonged. Sometimes love isn't enough, especially when nobody's watching. Teenagers are tough. Alien teenagers with superpowers hiding from intergalactic assassins while attending high school? Apparently too tough for NBC audiences. The powers of Matthew Starr tried to blend teen drama with sci-fi action and ended up satisfying nobody. The network kept tinkering with the format mid-season, which is always a sign of confidence, before finally putting it out of its misery after 1 season. Matthew Starr's powers included telepathy and telekinesis. What they didn't include? The ability to save his own show. Lottery had a premise that sounds like a fever dream. Each week, lottery winners get their lives turned upside down, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. NBC thought watching rich people deal with new problems would be compelling television. It wasn't. The show stumbled through 1 season before ABC decided that maybe people didn't want to watch other people get rich while they sat at home broke. Fair point, ABC. Fair point. Oh, Manimal, where do we even start? A crime-fighting professor who can transform into animals, usually a hawk or a panther, because the budget couldn't handle anything else. The transformation sequences ate up so much money and time that they recycled the same footage constantly. Viewers caught on fast. NBC caught on faster. 8 episodes were made, but the network yanked it so quickly that only a handful ever aired. The show was literally too expensive to keep making and too ridiculous to keep watching. A perfect storm of failure. We're at the halfway point, and these failures just keep getting more spectacular. If you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that button, leave a comment telling me which doomed show you actually remember, and let's keep this disaster parade rolling. Mr. Smith was about a hyper-intelligent orangutan who worked as a political consultant in Washington, D.C. Yes, you heard that correctly. An orangutan, in a suit, advising politicians. NBC looked at this concept and said, sure, why not? The answer came quickly, because it was ridiculous. 13 episodes were made, and the show was canceled so fast the orangutan probably didn't even get his SAG card. Sometimes a premise is so absurd that not even 1980s network desperation can justify it. Tron was cool. Automan wanted desperately to be Tron. It wasn't. The show followed a computer programmer who creates a holographic crime fighter that emerges from computers to battle bad guys in the real world. The special effects were actually impressive for 1983, but they cost a fortune. ABC ordered 13 episodes, aired 12, and then quietly buried the last one like a shameful secret. The show was bleeding money faster than Automan could generate polygons. Sometimes ambition and budget don't align. This was one of those times. Stephen Bochco created Hill Street Blues, so NBC figured his baseball drama would be a slam dunk. They figured wrong. Bay City Blues followed a minor league baseball team with the same gritty, dramatic style that made Hill Street a hit. Turns out, people didn't want gritty drama about baseball losers. NBC made 8 episodes, aired 4, and canceled it so fast it made heads spin. Somewhere in a vault, 4 unaired episodes gathered dust, unwatched and unmissed. Even Bochco couldn't save this one. We Got It Made had a premise that was already tired in 1983. 2 guys hire a gorgeous live-in maid. Wacky misunderstandings ensue. NBC gave it a shot. Ratings started to descend, then plummeted. The network canceled it in March 1984, which should have been the end. But wait, syndication picked it up for a second life, because apparently someone somewhere thought this show deserved another chance. It didn't. The syndicated version was somehow worse. This show died twice, which feels appropriate. Jennifer Slept Here starred Ann Gillian as a ghost haunting the apartment where she used to live, visible only to a teenage boy. It's like Topper, but creepier and less charming. NBC gave it 13 episodes, a standard sitcom trial run, and when the ratings came back dead on arrival, they let it fade away like, well, a ghost. The show literally about something that vanished became something that vanished. There's poetry in that failure. Masquerade tried to be a spy thriller where ordinary Americans get recruited for dangerous espionage missions. Think Mission Impossible, but with accountants and teachers instead of trained operatives. ABC filmed 13 episodes and decided not to air one of them, which is basically the network equivalent of saying, this one's too embarrassing even for us. After one season, The Masquerade was over. Turns out watching untrained civilians bumble through spy work isn't as entertaining as watching actual spies do spy things. Shocking. The ninja craze was huge in the 1980s, so NBC threw money at The Master, a show about an aging ninja master and his young apprentice traveling across America in a van, fighting evil ninjas. Yes, really. Lee Van Cleef played the Master, which was actually inspired casting, but even he couldn't save this mess. The action was stiff, the plots were repetitive, and after 13 episodes, NBC pulled the plug. The Master had mastered everything except keeping viewers interested. Here's a fun fact. Jim Carrey's first starring role was in a sitcom about an animation studio that literally nobody watched. The Duck Factory was actually pretty clever. It was a workplace comedy set behind the scenes of a cartoon production company. But NBC buried it in a terrible time slot, gave it zero promotion, and acted surprised when it failed. 13 episodes, minimal fanfare, cancellation. Years later, Carrey became one of the biggest comedy stars on the planet. NBC executives probably still kick themselves over this one. They had Jim Carrey and managed to make him unfunny. That's almost impressive. The new show was Lorne Michaels' follow-up to Saturday Night Live. You'd think the guy who created SNL could do sketch comedy in his sleep, but this was a catastrophic misfire. The show was trying to be hip and cutting edge, but came across as smug and confusing. NBC gave it 9 episodes before quietly canceling it and pretending it never happened. Even comedy legends strike out sometimes. This was Michael's strikeout, and it was ugly. The Wizard starred Doug Henning. Yes, the flamboyant magician, as a toy maker inventor who helps people with his gadgets while searching for his missing son. CBS thought magic meets technology was a winning formula. They were wrong. The show was corny, the effects were laughable, and after 11 episodes, CBS made it disappear. Not even actual magic could save this disaster. ABC tried to create a motorcycle version of Knight Rider with Street Hawk, a superbike that could go 300 miles per hour, ridden by an ex-cop turned vigilante. The problem? The bike was more interesting than any of the characters. After 13 episodes of repetitive chase scenes and boring plots, ABC pulled the plug. Turns out a cool motorcycle isn't enough to carry an entire series. Revolutionary concept. Blue Thunder was based on the hit movie about a high-tech police helicopter. ABC turned it into a weekly series and somehow sucked all the excitement out of a flying arsenal. The show lasted 11 episodes before getting shot down, proving that not every action movie should become a TV series. The helicopter was awesome. Everything else? Not so much. So there you have it, 24 shows from the 1980s that crashed and burned. The 1980s might have given us Cheers and The Cosby Show, but it also gave us shows about shape-shifting professors and holographic superheroes that couldn't escape bad ratings. If you enjoyed this journey through television's 1980s flops, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into pop culture failures, and drop a comment telling me which forgotten flop you actually watched. Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, remember, not every show can be a winner, and thank God for that, because failures are way more entertaining.